Hey, editing Rob here, real quick. Before we get into this video where I talk with the incredibly awesome Danny Bedrosian, who's one of the coolest guys I've ever met, I just want to apologize for the audio on certain parts on this video. All the audio from Danny Bedrosian's stuff comes through just fine, but mine kind of come through really crappy in places, and so it kind of is choppy, and I'm not sure why or how that happened, but it did, and I'm working on a way to fix that for future stuff. But just so you know, when you hear it, my end of it, my conversation parts are kind of staticky sounding, and it doesn't kill it completely, but it does kind of suck. But we're here to hear Danny Bedrosian because he's awesome. So anyway, just a little apology up front. So that's all I've got. So on to the video. Here we go. Danny. Hey man, thanks for wanting to do this with me. I really appreciate it. I'm kind of nervous. I don't do these very often, so I'm like, how do I go about this?
No need to be nervous, Rob. I'm super excited about this. Super excited to do this with you.
Thank you. So for my viewers, I'm with Danny Bedrosian. You kind of started hitting me up on my, I think it was my live streams. I was doing some lives, and you would just start commenting, and you kind of introduced yourself to me. And so for my audience who may not know, tell us who you are.
Yeah, so in addition to being a comic book enthusiast like yourself, I am the keyboard player for George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic for the past 23, 24 years. I'm also the current music director for that group and doing a multitude of tasks for George and company, as well as I'm also a best-selling author. I write books about the history of P-Funk, and I'm a degree-holding historian as well.
Yeah, you got all kinds of awesome credentials. That's awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. Um,
Thank you.
so I'm honored. Thank you. I thought it was great when you kind of introduced yourself to me and we started talking, and just you and the kind of a professional musician and all that cool stuff. But also, you like comic books and all this kind of fun nerd stuff. And you mentioned a while ago that we should do something and talk about a comic. And you had this idea for this one we're going to look at, which you sent me, and it's awesome. So we're going to sit here and talk about it. Now you're going to kind of be the brains behind this one because I've never read these, and I don't have the knowledge on these. So you're the one that's kind of got you're going to be instructing me and kind of educating me on this. So I'm excited for it.
Cool, that's awesome. I'm super excited. It's funny because when you talk about your sort of tenure in comics, as a lover of comics, I think your interests and mine coincide in a lot of ways. I was kind of not into DC comics at all. I read almost exclusively Marvel comics until our guys left and went to Image, and then I was, on that crazy gravy train as well for as many years as I could stand, and until, kind of like dropping off of comics from like 98, 99 till like 2014, and then at some point I just jumped back into it and went like all the way in and collected everything, all the gaps I had in all my series, and just went really deep back into it. But Ed Piskor was a friend of mine, and he always talked about, he was like, Danny and I have a lot of the same interests, except he was the oddball that also read Fantastic Four, so it's kind of like one of those funny things where it was like the hip comic in like 61 to 71. Right. And then after that period kind of was like, it's kind of a specific taste that you either it or you didn't read it at all. So it's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, my kind of understanding of it at the time was it's the classic kind of highly respected old school thing that carries a lot of weight, but it just never seemed to, for lack of a better term, to be the cool thing. It wasn't the X-Men or Spider-Man or something like that. And but it always carried this respectability to it that I understood, but it never crossed my path. And, like you were saying, that era, there's so many comics to collect. and I didn't have a lot of money available to me, so I had to kind of pick and choose. And sometimes you just like, I can't get everything. But
Right.
having read these, I'm like, I think I get the appeal. I kind of see it. There's a lot of surprising stuff in it for me. So really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's really cool. Like when I had first started reading, among my first books was, or at least my first two books were a book, Fantastic Four number, I think it was 331 or 332, which is only several months before this one, and as well as Uncanny X-Men 256, the Jim Lee completely confusing Psylocke changes issue, right? So those were my introduction to comics, as it were, and I was reading those FFs, and it was actually the third and final tenure of the great Richard Buckler, who was like considered like a house style guy, and gets a lot of flack. I don't think he necessarily deserves. But Steve Englehart was writing it, and Rich Buckler was drawing it. And Englehart was like at the end of his rope because editorial was not letting him do what he wanted, and they had brought Reed and Sue back against his wishes because Englehart had done this whole like very unorthodox thing, mostly with Keith Pollard drawing, where they made the Thing spiky. They changed his appearance. He boosted his strength really big, and they brought on Sharon Ventura, who was Ms. Marvel. Then she became a She-Thing, and then they brought Crystal on, who was like Johnny Storm's erstwhile girlfriend. But by this point, Johnny Storm was with Alicia Masters, which was the Thing's ex-girlfriend, and they kind of changed the whole team around where Reed and Sue were gone. And I didn't know at the time when I was reading, because I was like 8, but I didn't know at the time that Reed and Sue were actually with the Avengers at this time, which was being written by one Walter Simonson. And so Steve Englehart's writing FF before this period, Keith Pollard for like 2 years, and then Rich Buckler for about 7 months is drawing it. And they bring Simonson on, they kind of slow walk him in, where Englehart is just done. So he's out. He even like appears in his last issue. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, there's like him like Buckler drawing him like somebody else better suited for this than me. And that's like the last panel you see. And then the next 3 issues, Simonson takes over on writing chores, but Buckler is still drawing the first 2 of those. And then they get Ron Lim to do a fill in. And then after that, with the one that we have today, 337, it's Simonson writing and drawing. But he was doing the covers of 334, 335, and 336, which are essentially that Acts of Vengeance crossover, that crazy, where the villains switch parts or whatever. And so that's all right before this. And I'm introduced to the Marvel style. I'm 8. So the not rougher, but kind of more interesting left of center stuff doesn't make sense to me. So Simonson's doing these 3 covers. I'm like, who is this? What is this? I hate this. And then I'm like, oh, thank God, at least they still got the style that I like on the inside, which was Rich Buckler, and then Ron Lim, who I thought was amazing. And then with 337, they flipped it all to Simonson, and I'm mad at this point. I was so mad. I liken it to Mike Mignola doing that one issue of X-Force where we were all kind of pissed off, and then
Now you're like, it's beautiful.
and then, it's funny, it only took like 2 or 3 issues, maybe 2 issues, before I was like, oh, I get it. With the Simonson stuff, it was like maybe 1 issue where I was kind of disturbed by it, and then the storytelling and his artistic pacing, as well as just his writing in general, it captivated me so much. He was just, he was on the crux of, these are the types of Fantastic Four stories that made the Kirby Lee run so famous. They're basically fighting the biggest fight. Avengers and Spider-Man got this low-level fight. X-Men got like a fight right here. There might be some Infinity War stuff. And then the FF is like way up here, like defending time from ceasing to exist,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's also interesting, too, because this whole arc deals with time, and it's literally the blueprint for a lot of this multiverse crap that came out later in the MCU, for better or worse. And it's also the blueprint for the entire Loki show. So that's kind of interesting.
There. They mentioned the TVA, and I was like, what? This goes back that far? I
Yep.
I had no idea. News to me. So
Yeah.
so should we start looking at it? I can flip my camera around here.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Get this angled so we can see it. All righty. Yeah, we've got 337 and 338. And having read him, all that stuff you just kind of mentioned about like the the two of them, what Reed and Sue being on the Avengers. I didn't know that. So it all kind of like it's kind of coming together. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so this is the first issue where Simonson's drawing it. Is that right?
Yeah, he had done the covers for the three prior to it, but this is the first one that he drew the whole thing. And I guess he had this story already set up for when he was writing Avengers with Paul Ryan. And he, everything got flipped around. He was like, "Oh, I still got this great story." And that's why I think Thor and Iron Man are in it, because he had initially intended this as an Avengers story. So he kind of writes to the story.
Yeah, I was going to say, was that why those two of them are there? I mean, it makes sense. And did so Simonson had a big run on Thor. Is that Thor run before this?
Yes, yes. It's I mean, to most Simonson fans, it is the pivotal run. There's nothing compares to it. Nothing like, and it's years he does that book. So he does Thor. I mean, some people say it's only second to Kirby's run. Even some hardcore Kirby heads say it's even better than Kirby's run. So it's super important part of Simonson's comic bookography, if you will. And then he goes and does a really well-known run on X Factor. And then he writes the Avengers. It's like 293, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to like 300 or 301, with Paul Ryan drawing, who is ironically the guy who takes Simonson's place on FF. And that's when I literally check out of comics, because Paul Ryan, rest in peace, he's a great house style, but I kind of couldn't stand him on Fantastic Four, especially after this stuff, so.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can take an artist and you can love him on one thing, and then they go do another thing, like the magic's just not there. It's just not the same,
Yeah,
kind of
true.
frustrating in a way, but and so Simonson, he's still alive, he's still drawing. Did you see that giant commission, that private commission he did? It's like 6 feet wide and 4 feet tall. Did you see that?
Yeah, massive.
Massive. I can't imagine what he got paid for that, but I'm sure it was a lot of money.
Yeah, he's a beast. I'm actually holding in my hand and reading along with you on this Fantastic Four Visionaries, Walter Simonson Volume 1. There's like 3 of these. Yeah. And I've had the opportunity to talk to Mr. Simonson several times. And he had actually said he hates these, I think, because there's a lot of back matter that doesn't have anything to do with him that are in a couple of these volumes. And I can kind of see why that would be like, I don't understand why they put that in here. I don't understand what that has to do with, so like, he had his own critique kind of these books, but they are pretty good reproductions of 334 to 354, which is the full Simonson run.
Right. I can't help it. Every time I see these old books like this, my first thought is, I love this old newsprint look.
Yes, I still have my original that I bought right here. Yeah. I think it's probably my newsstand copy.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just nostalgia, but this old newsprint look, it's kind of widely considered to be the cheap way of making comics, and sometimes it doesn't reproduce the art the best way. But there's something just kind of special about it that just like nothing else captures. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh, it's like a warm blanket. I'm like, oh, it's just so magical. I just love it.
Yeah, and see that on that middle panel on the second line there with Ms. Marvel and Sue and Reed in the background. I probably drew that panel 1,000 times as a kid. Just that the back of her, like with her arm. Yeah, exactly, right there. I don't know, something about that captivated the hell out of me, and I was just like, I don't know. It was the beginning of me being like, oh, Simonson's better than I thought. He's really a genius. I was just starting to understand.
Yeah, the one book of his that I've seen and known was that X-Men Teen Titans crossover.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's just so good, and I remember
Yeah,
really liking it. And so that's kind of the one book that I know that I've seen and just loved everything he did in that.
right.
And so flipping over, of course, double page spread. And it feels like this is like a hallmark of a classic Fantastic Four story, some kind of giant machinery with science and craziness. And here we are.
Yeah, Kirby tech galore.
Yes.
And then and an interesting homage is this issue's for the Doctor of Flash, Mr. Howard Chaykin, because they were both kind of contemporaries.
Yeah.
So I thought
What
that
is
was interesting.
that supposed to be referencing?
The Doctor of Flash, that I don't know, but I know that I think they shared a studio with a few of those other guys from that generation, and
Okay.
I thought it was just referencing sort of the sort of grand scale of the story, in a way was his dedication to Chaykin's earlier work.
Sure. Yeah, I read that. I'm like, I wonder what that means. I like seeing guys throw in that kind of kind of in stuff to each other. Like they know what it means. So yeah, so giant machine. I was surprised at this story. It's got really big science fiction themes and ideas, and it was like really well written. I'm a big Star Trek fan, and so I kind of get this Star Trek vibe. There's this galactic thing and these energies, and we got to dig into these portals. And I was like, this is really well done.
It is. I mean, Simonson really taps into, no matter what he's writing, whether it was X Factor, Thor, or even FF, he taps into that Kirby energy, and not just the visuals, but like you said, like the script. Like he really touches on the science of the science fiction, which was something that I think Kirby was doing in a big way. And for the people who hadn't read those early sort of sci-fi Galactus stories and things like that, there was like a lot of science, for lack of a better word, involved in that stuff. And when you're dealing with anything with Reed Richards, you got to have like some level of intelligence attached to it.
Yeah, I've always imagined what it would be like to write a character like this because he's the smartest man on the planet, and I'm sure not. So how would I write a story? I kind of like write circles around it and just kind of like play. Because how do you make that work?
And I
And
think he's also at the very beginning struggling a little bit with Ms. Marvel's character, like trying to figure out how to write for her voice, if you will, because, not to give too much away, but by the time he ends his run, he kind of returns things to how they were before Englehart took over. So, but he keeps her on as a very important character, and she's very much involved in his whole run. But you can see how like he's so adept at writing for like the four, Ben, Johnny, Sue, and Reed, because he just grew up on these characters, and Jack Kirby is his favorite of all time. So it's just you're really seeing that voice, come through really well, especially with Reed, I think.
yeah, yeah. And so this version of the thing, because Ben is normal human guy, and so I'm not exactly clear on how this happened. So what is that?
So in issue 325 or 6, I want to say, it's still the Englehart Keith Pollard run. Keith Pollard did an amazing art run on FF for like 2 years. They're fighting the Frightful Four, and Reed and Sue had just come back, and something I can't exactly remember, but in the midst of the fight, Ben loses, and he's Spiky Thing, which I actually kind of like the best.
Yeah.
Spiky Thing loses his power and reverts back to Ben Grimm, and stays Ben Grimm for almost an uncomfortably long period. And the Thing is my favorite character of all time. So like I'm an 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid, kind of mad through all these issues. So I'm like, when is Ben gonna turn back into the Thing? Is it ever gonna happen again? It felt like it was never gonna happen again. And he also during this period has a Thing suit that he wears and fights with sometimes, and like those are like the closest we would get to Ben returning to the Thing. But I think he's back to Ben Grimm form from like 324 to 350. So it's a long time.
Yeah,
It's almost 2 years.
yeah. And so who is this version?
So that's Sharon Ventura. She is one of the 3 Ms. Marvels, I believe, not the Carol Danvers one. And then there's another one, I believe, but she's Sharon Ventura, Ms. Marvel, who joins the team under the Thing's leadership when Reed and Sue leave during that Englehart run, and miraculously she becomes a Thing um, when they were fighting somebody. And again, I don't remember all the details of that exactly. I was, again, I'm 8 buying those back issues because they had all just happened like months before I got into FF. And the same time that the Thing went from Rocky Thing to Spiky Thing, Sharon Ventura went from human to this kind of lumpy thing like the original Ben Grimm, and then she gains the Rocky form as well. So it's kind of an evolution, and it's all during that Englehart Keith Pollard run, and also Ron Frenz was doing those covers, amazing covers by Ron Frenz and Joe Sinnott inking, just incredible.
I was reading some books. I want to say it's that I think it was a 4-issue Days of Future Present.
Yeah.
With the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, and I think that this version of this character was in there, and I didn't understand. I didn't catch that it was supposed to be a female. I'm like, what is going? It was a really weird thing because I didn't know. So
yeah, and she's Ben's romantic interest too, because now, right in this period, Alicia Masters is with Johnny Storm, and that actually happened during a John Buscema run, of like the very last John Buscema run of FF, where Alicia marries Johnny, Ben's all pissed off, and then it's like 6 months later that Ben brings Sharon Ventura on. She becomes a Thing, and then they fall in love. So
the soap opera drama of comics.
Yeah.
So page on this one. I'm guessing, is this probably, you think, some kind of like Zipatone sheet pattern that he would put in there for the art?
Yeah, I think so. Either that or it's some kind of cut and paste that he created. Like, he does a lot of this. You see it on the page preceding as well with these like geometric shapes, and they're like cutouts of geometric shapes and things. It really just adds to the cool sort of sciencey nature, they're saying there's a volume anomaly, and then Reed tells Sue to use her force field to screen off that part of the room. It's funny because as a kid, when I first read this, I thought that Sue caused that to happen.
Me too. Yeah, I was like,
but I guess
okay, she's comparing it. It's a really neat way to give. There's only so much you can kind of draw, and this is way before like computer coloring effects. So to create some kind of like unbelievable, otherworldly, distorted, weird thing, that works really well. It kind of defies description, which is perfect.
Yeah, I agree. And it also harkens back to the Kirby issues again, when Kirby would take like actual photos from space and from like sci-fi movies and things and place them in the backgrounds, like photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I think it's Simonson homage and Kirby all over the place.
Yeah. So they're containing that thing, and they're trying to figure out what it is, and a lot of science talk about what it is. And I like how this the 2 pages after this, pages 8 and 9, where Reed is just like so zoned in on what he's trying to figure out. He's not listening to anybody else, and that makes sense. That feels very in character for what he would do. His brain is just covering all kinds of ground that none of the others can, and they have to like get him like, come on, will you give us an answer?
I know. Johnny's getting fed up with him, and he's like, okay, right. I'm sorry. I can't expect the rest of you to share my suspicions when I haven't mentioned them to anyone.
Yeah. I thought that was, and I like that. It kind of makes them. I like the idea. It gives them a little bit of like, he's not flawless or perfect, and it makes it just kind of believable and nice. There's the human element. I like that.
Yeah, and it's great. I think Simonson's inking him. Yeah, he is. He's inking himself on these. These are great. I mean, there's some issues later where they get Al Milgrom, and those are pretty good too. But I think Simonson inking himself is some of the best. You got these great like speed lines and things, and even the sort of Kirby tech stuff has Simonson's little touches, these little like grains that he puts in. You know.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. It definitely gives it a unique look.
I think he was uber like aware of that stuff, because like when he did Thor, he was really trying to get like wood tones and wood grains, and then when he did FF, he was trying to really lean into that digital sort of technology side. And I think he does it great. I just love all the movement and the, sort of like the action, even in these sort of mid-level shots, these sort of Jim Shooter-esque mid-level shots even have so much action and vibration in them.
Yeah. And then here in this on page 9 there, it's where Reed's mentioning, he's like, it was during their short time when him and Sue were in the Avengers. And I'm like, I don't think I knew that they were ever in the Avengers, although it kind of, almost anybody could be in the Avengers. It's kind of a rotating roster. You shouldn't be surprised by anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even know the Beast was in the Avengers until a couple years ago. I had no idea.
Oh yeah, I think when I first started reading comics, I just kind of thought he was an Avenger. I'm like, oh, he's actually an X-Man first.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. And so they kind of give a backstory here on the next page. This big interdimensional. They're talking about this great time bubble lies across the time continuum of our universe. I mean, that's some big science fiction ideas.
Yeah. And taking like the Kangs and all these other sort of Marvel Universe, really Fantastic Four originated Marvel Universe sci-fi stuff and sort of putting it all together is really brilliant. I thought this yellow for the flashback was incredible.
Yeah.
I never liked the Avengers. I never gave a damn, especially not in the 80s and 90s. You remember what the Avengers were like back then. They weren't worth a damn. And and I just remember looking at that and being like, I don't think I've ever seen the Avengers look cooler. I don't even know who half of them are. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Like this dude on the far right, he's the Druid, Dr. Druid or something. He ends up being an important part of this storyline.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I would have even been able to identify who that is.
Right.
Yeah.
Same.
Neat looking stuff. But yeah, this big cosmic stuff. I mean, there's a certain way of like rendering that just makes it work. Like it's like a Kirby thing. Simonson, like that, got the Kirby crackle and all the energies. It just this crazy science fiction adventure that they go on.
So good.
Yeah.
And then just one more thing I just wanted to say real quick too is that last panel on that last page. God, they look so good. The four of them there. I mean, the characterization, the inking on Ms. Marvel on the She Thing, so good. I don't know. Something like it's cartoony, but it's still realistic enough. Sue looks like she just woke up. Like, I just think that's so well done,
Yeah, I was noticing that kind of like quirky expression on the face there. But all of them, yeah, you're right.
So good.
Unique looks to them. They're not just carbon copied like faces staring blankly. There's characterization in it, and it's great.
Yeah. And on the next page where you're saying about carbon copy, I couldn't believe that he didn't just copy like if this was Jim Lee or Ron Lim or like some of the more kind of astute technical guys, they would have just reproduced that. Don't you think? They would have just taken it and copied it, Xerox, 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 Xerox.
Yeah.
Each one of those is different.
I at first at a glance I was like, it is just a copy, but no, I'm looking at it very closely. I'm like, you're right. Everyone has got subtle little differences. I wonder if he did like one drawing and then like light boxed each one, but then made minor adjustments on the faces and expressions or something like that to speed it up a bit.
It's possible, except if you look at Reed in the first panel, his body is turned. It's angled. I thought about the same thing you did, but I'm wondering if he kind of just, I don't know. It's hard. He could have light boxed the machinery maybe, and added them in. But I just thought that was so cool that he didn't do like the lazy thing.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I mean, maybe he just had the one panel and then he light boxed a light pencil just to place everything. And then when he finished it, he'd make those minor adjustments, change the expression, move his body, but it just kind of placed everything so it's kind of uniform. I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear how he did it. It'd be fascinating.
Yeah. It's like a flip book there. It's cool.
Exactly. That could be turned into a little flip. You'd be like, hey, it's like a little animation.
Right. And a great example, sort of the cigar. They're able to move it into the future a minute.
Yeah.
But then they can't move it 100 years because something is blocking. There's a time anomaly blocking a certain period of time going forward, and that's a problem.
A wild concept. I would love to know where he got these ideas. Like, where did he how do you come up with these ideas? It's really great. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love the way he framed all this stuff.
Yeah. And then we get into these other pages, and there was this weird because you're gonna drop their they got their kid, right? This is when they have the Franklin, right?
Franklin, yeah, yep.
They're like, well, we're not gonna go on this crazy galactic adventure and drag the kid, so they're gonna drop him off at a babysitter.
And
Who
it looks like the babysitters are the Simonses. Don't it look like Walt and Louise? I don't know. I'm wondering that.
occurred to me? I was like, guy with glasses and a beard, and I'm like, I bet you that's supposed to be him. And
I
that,
think that's supposed to be his wife too.
yeah, I don't really know off the top of my head if I've seen. I mean, I probably have, but I don't know. But I've seen pictures of him, and I think that type of stuff is just great. It's just hilarious. Why not throw yourself in there?
Yeah,
Oh, like why not? That's great. And then they have these things where some of the characters they're exhausted, like Reed here, and then they're having dreams of this character. I don't
yeah,
know who
Nebula.
there is. Is that someone I'm supposed to recognize?
That's Nebula.
That's Nebula?
That's Nebula.
Okay. I mean, the color
Yeah,
makes sense, but I didn't know
yeah,
that. Interesting.
right. And in this sort of creation of the Marvel universe, if you will, I believe she's supposed to be the granddaughter of Thanos or something like that. And in that preceding Avengers story, she basically, if I remember correctly, she poses as one of the Kangs because in the future, in the time bubble or whatever, there's like millions of Kangs, and she poses as a female Kang, and she basically takes over the mind of Druid, of the Druid guy from the Avengers, and that kind of ends his tenure with the Avengers because he sort of she uses his mind control power or whatever his weird wizarding power is to control people's minds, and so she's got him in like a romantic headlock, if you will, and she tries to do the same thing with Reed. And it doesn't work with Reed because he's just so dedicated to Sue. Like, some men would be like, this is corny. There's no way you wake up screaming your wife's name with this chick.
Imagine
But
you said that and your wife was like, what the heck? You're like, hey, babe, I was having a dream and I was calling for you. Yeah,
but
okay.
it shows his wholesomeness, and like you were saying about Scott and Jean, you
Yeah.
want Reed and Sue to be together. You don't want them not to be together. So that's kind of cool.
There's just some of those Scott and Jean, Peter and Mary Jane, Lois and Clark. I'm just to me they're just the eternal couples, and Reed and Sue. I'm like, just let's just not mess with that.
Yeah, and Reed and Sue are really the prototype of all of that, in a lot of ways.
So then so Ben and sorry, I keep forgetting the name you tell me of the girl thing.
Yeah, well, they call her Sherry or Sharon. She's Ms. Marvel.
Okay.
Sometimes they call her the she thing, but she's basically Ms. Marvel or Sharon.
Yeah. So they go to, and this is another thing I didn't know at the time. I guess the Avengers Mansion had been blown up.
Yeah, I wasn't really following the Avengers, so I didn't. This was news to me when I first read it. That okay, they're staying in somebody's basement.
So yeah, they're hanging out and they go and have a chat with the Avengers and hook up with Thor, which I mean, I think any Simonson fans would be like, heck yeah, if we're gonna do this, grab Thor, let's do that.
Exactly. But Rob, let me ask you this: who's the guy in the red jacket? Who is that?
Um,
Because I don't know.
if I could like just randomly guess, um, Hawkeye?
Oh, maybe, or maybe,
Is it?
yeah,
That's a, I, that's a, who knows, right?
yeah. I have no idea.
Just some guy. I mean, I was like, Clint Bart, is he blonde haired in the comic?
The thing is, too, Hawkeye was in the West Coast Avengers at this time,
Yeah, all right. There's
so
probably
I'm not sure.
someone will watch this and will chime in and tell us. That'd be interesting to know because it's got to be somebody. I mean, clearly it's not just random figure.
Right? Is Wonder Man? Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, there you go. So then, Johnny Storm's melting down some metal to give Reed raw materials for yeah, what this project that they're working on. I like this shot of him coming down and kind of like the landing pose, and he's kind of turning off his flame power so you see his regular human head. I thought that was kind of a neat panel.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Then he drifts off to sleep, and so is he dreaming about Nebula too?
Yeah, and unlike Reed, who's got this just super dedication to Sue,
Yep.
Johnny was the erstwhile playboy.
Yep.
He's just recently married, and of course, is some kind of monster that she's pretending is abducting her.
Right.
And so Johnny has to take him out, and she goes right in, and he doesn't fight it. He kind of tries to, but
Yeah.
this is supposed to kind of harken to something that's going to happen later. So you just keep in mind, Reed fought it off, Johnny didn't.
Are these imp rings on the guy's fingers supposed to be representative of something, or is that just a weird design element?
Yeah, what is that? I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Very distinct, like up front, like big gold rings on his fingers. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah,
it is cool though.
Fights him off. Nebula's very appreciative.
Yeah, the lips. If you look at the close up on the lips, you can really see. Walt Simonson was a big influence, I think, on Mark Silvestri, and if you look at those Inferno era Silvestri books, there's a lot of Simonson flavor going on.
I'm looking at this, and I almost feel like these panels are a copy of each other. The line work almost looks exactly reproduced. I bet you one or probably the small one, and then he just blew it up and zoomed in.
Blew it up.
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
So then they're dropping off the kids. Now this is again, didn't the Fantastic Four do they, or did they at one time? They had two kids, right? A son and a daughter.
Yeah, the daughter is later. So the daughter happens, I think. Well, they had a miscarriage at one point, I believe, and then there's a daughter that happens like after I'm checked out. And when I came back to, because I still buy new Fantastic Fours now, they're actually pretty well written to this day. And yeah, they have a girl now too, and both of them are. I like how they're not like stuck in time. Like the kids are actually getting older. So like Franklin is now, I don't know, teenager or in his 20s, and then the girl is like a teenager.
I was actually going to ask that. Are they still children? It's nice to see them they're not, like you said, frozen in time for 5 decades.
Right. I think Claremont was on that same tip of like aging the characters. I think it's kind of important from a writer's perspective. And I just think artistically, when Franklin comes in the house, any kid who grew up in the cold, him coming in and the hat falling off and the jacket kind of like not coming off all the way. And like, I just think that works so well, even as cartoony as it is.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. As an artist myself, I've always imagined like buildings and perspective and city shots are always challenging, but this Fantastic Four, the top of that building and drawing that four and having them connected and the way the top of it is weird angled shaped, I'm like, what a pain in the butt this must be.
I can only imagine.
It looks awesome, but I'm like, I just go nuts.
Yeah, and that's the second building, because Baxter Building is gone at this point. That's that Four Freedoms Plaza is what it's called.
Yeah. So the Avengers are showing up, or at least Thor, and this is where I guess, I don't know if we knew that it was going to be Iron Man. I think this is supposed to be the introduction of like, Thor was going to bring somebody. Iron Man, heck yeah.
Yeah.
And I love this time sled that they build. It's just funny how it's like it's always an open top thing that they just sit on. It's never a contained like thing where you think can you build like a capsule around this? But it's just like a thing that just is just a Fantastic Four. We're always going to be riding atop a thing.
And that's like, and the sled aspect. I mean, it wouldn't really be a sled without it being open, And I think that like the sort of the construct of time travel doesn't demand the bubble that say space travel demands. I guess
They address it. He's like environmental field, like the technology. This is absolutely something that Reed would do. He's like, I can just build a force field around us. Believe me, this is simple. This is child's play. The design is great. It's just wacky but awesome.
Yeah, it's so fun.
I don't know why. I just really dig this picture of Thor standing over there. Just that little tiny shot. He's just standing there. The cape kind of that old classic original design that is kind of. I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's kind of silly, but it's
Yeah,
thick. You know, the cape kind of like lifts up off his shoulders and then arcs backwards. It's
yeah,
just
it's awesome.
yeah, it's a neat design.
Iron Man looking real bulky to me,
I
but it's a
noticed
good.
that he's got some real. He's like juiced or something. And you know, I always honestly thought that the skin tight Iron Man look, like it's classic, but I'm like, this is a suit of armor. It should be a little thicker. Like I feel like the movies nailed it perfect. Like it just worked perfect. You know,
Yeah,
something to it. And this is kind of in that thing, but he's really big. I mean, that's a big meaty hand of his right there.
and they were really kind of. This character wasn't that popular at that time. That's another interesting thing about Iron Man in the 80s and 90s. He's not the superstar that we know him as today. So
Yeah, that was always kind of my understanding. It's like he's a classic original guy, a classic Marvel character, but kind of like C grade in a way, like C grade character. But you know, Robert Downey Jr. He kind of made that character, and I was like, I'm into this character now. I
yeah,
really
same.
like him, and I feel like they got it right. Like it's awesome. You know, it just makes a good character better.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
So, and then Johnny's, of course, kissing his wife, but then the illusion of the other girl, that's rough. I mean, I guess if it's not his fault, he didn't make it happen, but don't try to explain that to her.
And I mean, that's the beginning of him kind of realizing something's wrong, and he's sort of out of control. Like he's not fully in control at this point.
I've said this before as an artist, drawing people kissing is hard. Those two planes of a face touching, but at an angle and kind of overlapping, that is a trick. And anybody who can pull it off well, of course, Simonson will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, he's got to be doing this stuff semi-fast. Like he's a deadline guy,
Sure.
and as he goes through his run, he has to take breaks where they have these like fill-in issues. So like, and it's a lot of times they say, oh, because he's got to catch up on the next however many the next 5 issues or whatever. So, but I love that deadline style for everybody. Sylvestrian Green's deadline style blew me away. I just love that stuff.
Some like kind of an energy just captured and like just got to get it done, got to speed through it, and it works.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so much action to it.
yeah. So they all jump on the ship, and here, this is where Reed says, atmospheric envelope complete, engaging probability field, Heisenberg effect neutralized. I'm glad I watched a lot of Star Trek because I kind of understand all of it. Um, yeah, that's how it can kind of encapsulate them. And there's an interesting like energy burst of all this stuff on the sides. It's the last thing I would have thought they would have drawn. It kind of again kind of defies description. It's not quite liquid. Why would it be liquid?
Yeah.
I don't know, but going into space-time continuum, it's got to be odd.
Right, exactly. And I mean, so much of it just screams the Simonson flavor. I mean, some of the stuff you see at the bottom and the top, even kind of like his signature, like
Yeah.
like his literal signature. It's got all that curvature. I love that stuff.
His signature, where it looks kind of like a dinosaur kind of thing.
Dinosaur. Yeah.
The body and the tail. I
Yeah.
never noticed it until somebody else mentioned it years ago. I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh my god, yeah, yeah, that's exactly what that is. That's great.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah. So off they go into the universe, and then again, just the ability to do like weird stuff in the panels, breaking up these borders. It just, how do you take a visual medium and create an off-putting, weird, dimensional hopping insanity? How do you depict that on a page? And it works.
Yeah, these like skips of time with the panel breaks. He ends up doing that a lot later. There's like a really famous issue later. He does 352, I think, where Reed and Doctor Doom get in this like time fight. And there's like it does this, but to like the nth degree. It's the craziest use of panel breaks to depict like a battle through time. It's really, really cool.
I keep thinking about this and the Fantastic Four and that type of stuff. I bet it'd be interesting to get Tom Scioli's kind of opinion on this stuff. He's such uh, a like a biblical scholar of this type of work. I bet he's got
Sure.
fun insights into this stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And then again, this top panel where everything's flipped upside down.
And they look so good too. Upside. I love that. I love that panel.
I gotta flip this over. I want to like look at them, and every face looks great. And
Yeah.
bottom panel again, this weird pattern rocketing into again wherever they are. This is just a dimensional thing that just defies description, and it needs to be weird and odd and almost you can't, how do you explain that to somebody? Like, I can't even tell you what we're looking at, but that's what it needs to be.
Right, like a hot magenta prism into the time vortex.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that the sound effect across the bottom? Does like not just the sound of them just rocketing into it?
Yeah.
It's
Cram. Right.
great stuff. And then this cityscape on that top, I mean, everything, of course, but that is a wild, the coloring.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Again, this is that stuff that I think influenced Silvestri a little bit.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Inferno, a lot of that stuff, it's really kind of taking a cue from a lot of this Simonson stuff, in my opinion, especially the far away shots.
Sure. They rocket in there, and then there's, I guess, because they're in time, there's a bunch of like vehicles like them, a bunch of people from various time dimensions.
Yeah, it's different probabilities of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like these bottom panels with this kind of open line stuff.
So cool.
Yeah. So they're traveling through the universe. And more just weird, designy stuff that just makes it feel strange. I love this bottom panel. I don't know if on your copy, mine here, it's either a bad reproduction because it almost looks blurry.
No, it's supposed to be like that. It's like they're vibrating, like it's like a massive vibration. I remember seeing it when I first, the newsprint version and being like, huh? But I think it's meant to be like that. I think it's also really interesting too, if you look at the panels above, there's a bunch of cool stuff hidden in there. So there's like the nuclear bomb. You see like the atomic bomb blast in one of those.
Yeah.
Yep. And then one looks like a face with like a hat with like a mustache.
Yeah.
And there's one with like a mountains with birds, and there's one with like people marching in the bottom right corner.
Oh.
It's very interesting. Some architecture in some of the other ones.
I would love to know what was in his mind when he was doing that. Like, what was his thought process of, I'm going to put some weird stuff in. That's really interesting. Yeah.
It's super psychedelic.
Yeah. But yeah, that bottom panel, I was wondering, I was meant to ask you, like, is this a weird printing thing, or is it supposed to be kind of fuzzy in a way, which would make sense for what they're doing? It works perfectly.
Yeah, in the reproduction, it's exactly the same. I mean, the color.
Got it. And then it ends with this, like, again, almost defying description. Like, what are they punching into there? Is that supposed to be? I know they've described where they're going, but this.
Yeah, I think that. I believe. And like slapping up against it's awesome. I mean, that sort of semicircle with the line work is so primordial Simonson.
Yeah.
And then all of this cool like stuff on the surface up that it's hitting up against. And then he just says, "There you are."
Yeah.
And
it's the title of the story. It's chapter 1. It says, "No matter where you go, there you are." I like that. With this crazy pattern on that, I'm just trying to wonder how he did that. I don't feel like he didn't draw that in by ink by hand. It's some kind of pattern. I've seen people take paint and like layer different colors of paint and then put glossy paper on top of it and peel it off, and it
Yep.
creates weird. I mean, it could be anything, but it's really neat because again, it just makes a very otherworldly design. It's awesome.
I've seen Brian Moss do that kind of stuff a lot, and it's like this kind of blotchy thing going on. I'd want to ask him because he might have a good insight to that too.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that a lot. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep going through the next issue? I've got all the time in the world. Are you good?
Sure. Yeah. Totally.
Because it ends on a heck of a cliffhanger. You're like, that's awesome. Where are we going with this?
Right. By the time I saw this next cover, I was like, okay, I love Simonson. Like it only took me like 1.5 issues for me to be like, okay, he's incredible. Like the hands, those hands in the background. Now I think this, even though it doesn't say it, I want to say this is an homage cover because I think John Byrne does something almost exactly the same. Of course, it's Ben instead of Sherry, but I think there's another FF cover that's almost exactly the same as this.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised. It's crazy. It's just again, it's psychedelic. It's weird. Like what's going on? This is great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then the open page, what a great splash page. And again, my copy here, it feels like it's like that other panel where it's kind of distorted a bit.
Yep, and these, like the fact that it's really, what is this 7, 8, 9, 10? It was like 11 panels instead of one. Like it's broke up in a really cool way.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. And gives a quick recap of like, okay, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, and let's see if they can seek the answer to the riddle of the bubble if they live that long.
Right.
And of course, I love the classic splash page and then double splash page.
Mm-hmm. Classic Kirby homage.
Yeah.
And then Kang's for the memories is great.
Yeah, thanks. Or guests coming to dinner. Oh, they're so clever. Great.
And then it's a different. I'm sorry, Rob. It's a different letterer. The last issue was Bill Oakley lettering, and this one is Todd Klein.
Okay.
And I'm a little bit more familiar with Oakley than Klein's work. However, I know John Workman is kind of the like pivotal guy that Simonson uses for most of his lettering. I want to say that these big sort of the bracka 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 boom, all that stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if that was Simonson.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's got a continuity that you see no matter who he uses as a letterer, and it makes me wonder if that's actually him doing that.
Okay, that makes sense. And because I'm not as familiar with that aspect of that as much as you are, but I know that Eric Larson is a big influence on him as Walt Simonson, and I could kind of see the DNA in some of this, and some of this lettering kind of like that kind of is familiar that I see some of the stuff you would do in Dragon. So that's kind of the little connection that I'm vaguely aware of.
Definitely. Larson is definitely coming from that Simonson school. And then also Simonson and Larson, their favorites are the same. They have all the same favorites. So they end up being so similar in that vein.
Yeah. And then I was kind of surprised to see, Kang, of course, the time guy, but see these kind of distorted faces as they're
so cool.
Whole bottom panel with all these crazy textures and weird shapes. It's just wild. I love it.
And it's important enough that Simonson signed that page.
Oh yeah. Right there across, and even kind of integrated it into the border, like the line. Yep. That's really neat. I kind of missed that until you just pointed it out. That's great.
I thought that was awesome.
I heard, have you heard that maybe it's his Thor run, but Simonson holds on to all his original art?
Yeah, that's super respectable.
A Thor run, but I heard that he's got it all, and that's really interesting because he could make a healthy amount of money on his pages if he wanted to, but it seems like he's probably doing just fine. So,
yeah, I think that royalty money, that Beta Ray Bill money, and all them royalties that they were getting as writers and creatives probably helped him enough where he was like,
right. I get it. Like as me drawing, it's hard anytime I have to part with anything, which is not that often, but I'm like, this is a thing I made and I spent a lot of time with it and I got to give it to somebody.
Right.
Trying to get it.
Well, well, you parted with some great Zodiacs for me and one of my own characters, which I love and I have here in the studio.
Awesome. So yeah, and then there again, I didn't know that this was Nebula. Maybe I missed it. I mean, right? Is this
Yeah,
again? And
that's
maybe
yeah.
where they said her name. I just maybe I didn't know that was her until you told me, so I must have missed it somewhere.
Yeah, that's Nebula, and you see, that's that Druid guy. He was an Avenger for a time. You know,
Yeah.
he was, and at this point, he is completely like her slave. Like he is not. He has no power, no control, and she's starting to do the same thing to Johnny. You know, she has completely controlled this guy. Tried with Reed first because she really wanted Reed. That's who she really wanted. But she has to move on to the next one, and it's going to be Johnny.
Of course. A little bit easier target.
Yeah.
And then so he kind of passed out, and then when you flip over, you find it kind of suddenly wakes up.
Yeah, he's kind of losing it. She's taking control of his mind at this point. And look at this. I mean, it's almost like Mobius inspired architecture, and you can see like old New York, if that's what it is, in the foreground, and then the new New York behind it. So cool.
And it's these new structures are unbelievably massive compared to the, what's that? The Chrysler Building.
Yeah, or I think that's the Empire State right there, right? Empire State in the middle. I think the Twin Towers to the right, in beige. There, yeah. At least that's what, or maybe the Twin Towers are to the left of the Empire State.
Oh, okay, yeah, down there a little bit lower. Either way, just the scale implied is massive.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the foreign stuff, the manga or even Mobius, the European stuff. It's really special, and it's got all of his little ticks on it, on all the sides of the architecture. I just thought that was so cool for a sort of medium-sized panel.
Yeah, absolutely. Back with Reed, and then more of these probably, I'm just guessing, dot patterns to put in here to make it feel kind of odd.
Yeah, to out beyond the Andromeda galaxy, an unbelievable warp in time and space. It's incredible. It can only be the source of the bubble.
Yeah.
And of course, you've got in that panel below where Thor is kind of bracing himself, and you got that circle, more just classic Simonson action with the Kirby crackle in the middle.
I got to be honest, I was completely shocked, surprised to see Death's head show up. I've never read a single comic with this guy. I've only been aware of like the second version, and I'd seen pictures, I think, on Marvel cards of this guy. Yeah. I thought the face was kind of ridiculous.
Oh, it's insane.
Yeah, I was like, okay, and then he just shows up here. This is the last thing I was expecting, is Death's head to show up.
I mean, this is the kind of, and as these issues go on, it gets more, there's so many really well-placed cameos. None of them are useless cameos, which is what I really like, because a lesser writer, a lesser creative would have been like, oh, let's put this in here because I need to make up more space, and I need to take... all of Simonson's choices they're surprising, they're fun, and it makes a book with this many words feel real quick,
Right. Yeah. And I like it how he just shows up and Thor's like, well, there's an intruder doth approach on a collision course, but my hammer Mjolnir shall give him pause. He just throws his hammer at the guy. I didn't do anything to you yet. So I'm like, okay, good job. Even Iron Man's like, dude, hold on.
Right.
I gotta say, I kind of I appreciate that old-timey Thor speak, but I don't think it holds up very well in a way. It's just... It's fun. Yeah. It's a little much.
I think it works better in a non-Thor book in a way, because you contrast it up against like Ben Grimm's like Brooklyn thing, yeah, and Reed Richards' intelligent thing, and I think it works really well in this context, because, or even with the Avengers, because it's kind of like anomalous by itself, you know?
Yeah. That makes sense. And Death's Head, again, I don't know anything about him, but according to this book, he's pretty tough. Like, he dodges the hammer, opens fire with a bazooka to send straps to hold him down. Like, all right. He's
I
no.
love these nets or whatever they are. As a kid, I remember staring at that panel for like an hour and just being like, wow, what's happening there? Like, I just thought that was so kind of cool, and how the sled, that back shot of the sled, and then I think that gray part of the sled is something we didn't really talk about, but in the first issue, what do they call it? The super dodecahedron or whatever it is. That's like the thing that's powering the sled.
Yeah, okay. I had to say that word out loud to myself, like dodecahedron. Okay, I don't know what it means, but I kind of just through cultural osmosis, it's some sciencey power or something or other. But yeah, right.
I just thought that was so cool. I mean, he's definitely consistent with his continuity and his like tech.
Yeah.
Which isn't the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. I like this shot where Iron Man's deflecting these whatever these straps are. Just the kind of circles coming from his hands. He's like, my repulsor rays will scatter this. It's just a neat energy effect. It works really well.
Yeah, this is like, to me, that's iconic Iron Man right there.
Yeah. So
honestly, it's the same time that JR is doing Iron Man, and that's a very JR looking Iron Man right there too.
So yeah, I haven't seen much of those. Yeah, I'm looking
those
at
are pretty good.
What you're saying. So they zip around. They eventually, I guess, now they've had a quick fight, they kind of like chit chat with each other for a minute, and like maybe we don't need to be fighting.
Yeah, and this is my real introduction to Death's Head. I don't know if I have any other comics that even you were mentioning that. I don't know if I have any other comics that have them other than those Marvel cards. I had those,
yeah.
But I think this is my only introduction to him. And I mean, as he goes on, he is a quite a vile character. I mean, in the most fun way possible.
Sure. Yeah, he was kind of a tough guy in this book. He's pretty tough. That face, that design with that long kind of snout and the teeth at the bottom and the hooks coming up, like it's so oddball. This is on this page. We're on page 14. The TVA. I was like, no way. They've been around.
First appearance.
Was it here?
First mention of the Time Variance Authority. As far as I know, it's a Simonson creation, and it's created right here. And it ends up being the cornerstone to the end of this arc. We hear about it a little bit at the beginning. Issues and issues go by, and it doesn't come back until the very end of Simonson's arc, right before he stops writing and drawing FF. But I love this. This is kind of this image of the TVA, as it were, this blue device with the clock. So cool.
That's great building.
Yeah, and it's like floating in time and space, as it were.
Yeah, that looks. I'm looking at that. I'm like, that is just a spectacular design. That is really cool. But I was blown away. So I'm like, Death's Head, TVA, really? This is fascinating.
Right. Yeah, it's super fascinating. And Reed has no idea. He said the TVA. That name is unfamiliar to me.
Yeah.
Death's Head Herm. Your zone is more primitive than I thought.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you clowns. You guys don't know anything. Then giant explosion, and now we get involved with some Kangs.
Yeah. Also my introduction to Kang. I mean, I don't know if I ever saw Kang before this.
Yeah, I think, again, I probably saw him on some Marvel cards. I'm like, there's a villainous character that's out there that's been in stories I don't know about. I like the shot of Iron Man, kind of with the arm just straight forward and blast. There's something really graphic and interesting about it. I like that.
Yeah, and the emphasis on the fact that he just kind of got hit.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah, kind of tear away some of his suit. He's shooting over Ben's head. He's like, dude, hold on, wait. Let me know. I like this bottom right panel where the guy's getting vaporized with the energy and power. That looks great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I love that shot. And then this is where you really see Death's Head, how I don't know why, but again, I'm like 9 when this came out. I'm just freshly 9 too. he says in one of these, but I'm a mechanoid, and nothing would please me more than to rip your eyes out with my bright, shiny teeth and feed them to you one at a time. Speak, yes? I
Yes.
don't know why, but that stuck with me for years.
Yeah, right here. There's one, two, three, five. Yeah. I was reading that. I was like, wow, he's pretty rough. I like it. And the bad guy, he immediately folds. He starts singing a tune. He's like, okay, it's this, it's that. I swear, please don't feed me my eyeballs.
And he gives a cool, introduction of what we're going to see in future issues, because he says the council thinks that a renegade celestial is making a terrible weapon at the heart of the bubble. We don't know what it is, but it's supposed to give its master power over the universe. And so the celestials are involved too, which, in the Marvel universe, I don't know if there is a creature or character that's more powerful than the celestials are on a transcendent level. So
And
that's kind of cool.
the idea of a renegade celestial is like, ooh, because you might think of like the celestials as god beings with a plan, but to have one of them with that kind of power going off on his own, that could be scary. So great concept.
And I think this Kang is a deviant. Are you hip to the deviants?
Only again, that's not any books I've read, but through the movie, which
Okay.
and
So
I read up on them a bit.
Eternals is probably the worst depiction of a comic book in the movie, in my opinion. But the original is one of the few things that Kirby also scripted. And he has like the humans, the celestials, and the deviants. And the deviants are like these ugly kind of creatures, but they have the most diversity. Each one is different, and they seemingly get uglier and uglier as they go on in generations. It looks like it's a deviant Kang, and we're going to see more deviants in this story too, which is cool.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. That's interesting. I like that. And then yeah,
Shaking his head there.
weird. He's like, a little knowledge is dangerous, huh? So live here in ignorance, lizard man. Play tortoise, yes. With power armor is just shell. Like he speaks weird, but I
Yeah,
like. And
yeah,
then
he's great.
so Thor's hammer, can he create portals to other dimensions, kind of thing? Like, is that a Thor thing with his hammer to be able to do that?
Yes, I believe he's able to transport, but I don't know like what the boundaries of that power truly is. You know what I mean? I know that he was able to do it to kind of get to Asgard and such. I do like that Ben Grimm is taking Death's head by putting his arm around him. He's like, I don't know what you said to the lizard, but nice going. Reed's sharp, but he ain't mean enough for some jobs. You coming with us? Like Ben's ready to hire him on the spot.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, Reed's good, but you got to have somebody a little bit more harsher kind of sensibilities. You're. It's like I like him. Yeah, that was funny. I chuckle at that.
That's funny.
So great energy vortex, teleportation, and then just another great wild splash page.
How good does that look? I mean, just, oh my goodness. To reappear millions of light years distant above a vast and terrible sight, far below them is a universe gone mad.
Yeah. And they're saying on the next page it's an artificial construct the size of a galaxy. That's on a scale, like how do you even explain that? And it's drawing the entire universe into its core.
Right. I think if Simonson hadn't taken over FF, I don't know how long I would have stuck with it, because the first story I read was good, but I was still young. And as I grew older, this Simonson had this book for at least 20 issues, which is a long time in comic book months, if you will. I think that this is what kept me on more than anything else, is just the vast scope, the breadth, and the epic sort of grandeur of such a story. Yeah. It just kept me wanting to read more and more and more.
Absolutely, yeah, I kind of get it. So they're zipping around, so they're kind of getting closer to what they feel is the heart of the danger. So they're flying around. They run into some more Kangs, right?
Yeah.
what are these little? We're on page 20. These little cylinder things that are shooting out. Are they just
It's missiles.
just missiles?
Yeah, it's some kind of missiles.
Just weapon? Oh, it says that the missiles. It does say that they're just oddly shaped, but that's fine. It's different. It's
and I think it's also has to do with the fact that he says, I'm shifting out of sync with real space to phased probability, and the missiles are passing right through us.
yeah.
They were obviously some kind of artillery barrage that the Kangs were preempting before their attack.
Sure. Love this shot of Iron Man on the bottom middle there. I just something about that angle and that energy effect on his hands. I don't know. Sometimes it's just these little shots that are just really fascinating to me. And then that Thor right there with him, just classic.
Yeah. Especially like Simonson does really good with these back shots as well. Like he does a good job choosing angles. Even just like you can tell that this Kang next to him is not getting affected by what's happening. All these funny circles over him. He has a really good shorthand for describing action.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm always a big fan of guys that can display through their art energy effects of different types. And if you know what you're doing, it's really effective. And he's like master at it.
Definitely.
Then next page. There's Death's Head with this giant bazooka again.
They're looking great. That's a great shot.
Kind of time their effort to like while he's deflecting, like his shields go down if because he shoots him with the bazooka. So if his shields go down, then Thor's hammer can hit him. So
and the inking on that Kang getting hit by the hammer. I mean, the anatomy is great, but the use of like spotting blacks there is just incredible.
Yeah, very heavy shadows. That stood out big time. Very strong impact.
And it's just that classic, the dark green and that like magenta, purplish magenta for like a villain costume. Yeah. It really works, you know?
Totally. And I like this shot in the next page where Reed's stretching up to grab some like device off of him.
Yeah.
And they're like, that flying monstrosity, on the flying cycle must be responsible. So they take out Death's Head, like they destroy the technology that's keeping him there. And so he's gone, right? He's out of the story, at least for this issue.
Yeah, I think he's out for the rest of the run. I think this is it for the Death's Head moment. And I love he says, I'm phasing out of this time, but is there a future to return to? This probably means no fee, huh?
Right, yeah. Bounty hunter or something like that, right? He gets paid to do this stuff, and so he's on a job. I have to chuckle at that. I feel like I think we missed it, but I thought it said somewhere that maybe his story connected to this continues in his own book.
Maybe. Did he have his own book?
I thought that I saw something that implied that, and I'm not sure where, but and maybe I'm not thinking. Who knows where it may have been, but maybe
you might be right. I wasn't hyper aware of this character even at the time, and I don't know if I ever read another story with him. I don't even know who created Death's Head. Who created this character?
Where did he come? Is he? Because whenever I think of Death's Head, I think of Marvel UK. Is original Death's Head a UK version?
Oh, yeah, that might be Rob. You know, it might be that. What was the name of that? That publishing arm, didn't it have like a different like Marvel something?
Yeah,
it wasn't just Marvel UK, was it? Wasn't it something else? It had some name, some special name.
Probably, I can't remember.
I didn't remember those British. I stayed away from Excalibur and all that stuff.
Yeah, me too. It's like, nah, I don't need to see what is it?
Yeah,
Island and whatever these guys are.
Yeah, it just didn't do it for me. I might have one or two issues that I just got by happenstance. I probably got them in one of those 3-for-1 packs at the pharmacy where you don't know what's in the middle.
Yeah, you're like, well, we'll see. And like, oh, it's Excalibur. Thanks.
Right.
They had to offload him somewhere.
And then the Human Torch here, he's like, Death's Head's vanishing, and with him the only real chance we had against the Kangs, unless. And so, I mean, already this is Johnny Storm way out of character. Like doing something against Reed's wishes. I mean, he was always a little bit of a hothead, no pun intended, but this is kind of outside of his character.
Yeah,
And
I
then
was noticing that he was getting kind of like he was it some pages before he was kind of encouraging somebody to kill.
yeah,
That was yeah, that was so yeah. I was kind of curious as to kind of see where that's going to go.
and I mean, he doesn't only hit him; he hits him with a Nova Blast, which is something that, like, in the canon, Johnny Storm only does once every couple issues. You know, it's kind of like a rare, special thing that's usually saved for important moments where Reed tells him, "Go Nova for this thing," you know. But instead, he uses it to like inflict violence, and he kills this particular Kang.
Right.
And I mean, the shot of the dead Kang falling from the sky is crazy too.
Ah, yeah. It says the death shriek of Kang cuts across the vacuum and fills the minds of the witnesses with horror. The following silence is worse.
Yeah, that stuck with me as a kid too. That shot, I remember being like, "Damn."
Pretty. It's got a gruesome kind of vibe to it, which is great.
Yeah,
So then,
and
yeah, this guy
Reed and Sue, they're mortified.
the core of the machine, and so now they got to chase him. And Johnny just dives into it, and then so they're following him. I gotta say, I was like, when I was getting towards this, I was like, oh, I have no idea what they're gonna find, but I had a theory, and I wasn't wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Based on the rules, I don't know where the story actually goes, but I was like, hey, that's exactly what I kind of thought might, considering the comic. So yeah, they're diving.
Reed's face. Reed's face is awesome there too. I love such classic Simonson characterization.
Yeah. Yeah, it says the torch is gone crazy. If he flies beyond the probability envelope of the sled, he'll perish. So we got to like go. Why is he freaking out?
Yes.
Diving farther and farther into this thing. And they keep, again, we've already established the size of this thing, right? Like this is the machine that's like the size of a galaxy.
Right.
Like this is massive. And then I like it this part here on 29 where she's like they're closing in on Johnny, but like he's screaming, he's hysterical. So that's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just imagine him falling into this gravity well, screaming for his life.
It went from such a confident dive to such a limp, kind of loose,
yeah,
scared, innocent child. You know.
Yeah. And of course, Sue, she's like, he's looking at something, but I don't like, oh no, it can't be. I'm like, is it going to be? Practice.
Yes.
To show up in this kind of a run.
Yeah. This was like, and at this point, you know, I was already so into the FF that I'd gone to my local library where they had all the original Lee Kirby FFs, Lee Kirby Avengers, Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, all that stuff, the Simon Kirby, all that stuff. And so I'd already read the original Galactus story in these reprinted, for lack of a better word, like original trades that they had on hardcover that Marvel made back in the day, and they had them at all these libraries, public libraries. And so I'd already read about Galactus, so this excited me because I was like, whoa, and what a great depiction of him.
Yeah. For me, my introduction to Galactus as a character in real time in the story, because I'd heard of him, I'd seen pictures of him, but my introduction to the character was in the Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh, wow, yeah, sure.
Yeah, to read where the character was like actually up and alive and talking and actively participating in a current story. And I really liked the character. I'm like, I don't know much, but I this is interesting. This is fascinating to me.
Yeah. And in this sort of arc, he's pretty much unspeaking, which is a little different than what you see in other, even the original Lee Kirby run. You know, Galactus speaks and has like a human side, but in this story, there is no speaking on Galactus' part, which is really cool because you also see his eyes. And in this arc, his eyes take on two characters. They take on this sort of mesmerized thing, and they take on another character where they become like a weird, like geometric shape, which kind of shows that he's like on another level. Like he's not really like conscious of what's going on.
Yeah. it really gives the kind of the feeling of the size and grandeur of like a galactic god character. That's really interesting. I feel like in a way you can kind of lose the epicness of it when you start having them talk and they're just like people and humans. Like they should be on this whole other existence that we don't understand, and it gives it that frightening aspect to it.
Yeah, totally. And I think even if I was like a seasoned reader, which at this point I definitely wasn't, but even if I was a seasoned reader, I probably would have been like, "Wow, Kang's Death's Head, Thor, and Iron Man. Like this is like classic FF stuff. With these really well placed appearances, and everything has so much meaning, and it's just." But nothing. It keeps you on your toes every time. Like you're just like, whoa, what happens now? Again, I've read comics at the exact same amount of pages as this that feel like a boring, just long-winded trope, and I'm just like, when is this going to be over? I'm so ready to put this book away. These don't give any of that. They're just like excitement.
Yeah, it kind of keeps you moving all the time and introducing new stuff, and we're constantly traveling to places, and the stakes are big. I get the appeal. I get it. I having never read these, I'm like, I think I would have really dug these if I would have got them. This was what, 90, is it? I'm looking at
Yeah,
March of 90 is the on the inside cover.
right. And this is like, you got to keep in mind, this is basically, this is pre-Extinction Agenda era. So this is like, if it gives you an idea, like this is around the time that Jim Lee is doing those like issues with Wolverine and Jubilee and Psylocke and Madripoor and things like that's like the same era as this.
Yeah.
If that gives some kind of idea.
Love that stuff, and it kind of
Yeah.
feels. I don't know. There was a really fun time. I really enjoyed those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was buying both of those at the same time, and I mean they're just scratching a different itch. But I was at they were both so strong as titles that I almost didn't need to get anything else, and I really didn't for a long time until like the X books kind of exploded into a bunch of new things, and they were like kind of forcing us to buy more stuff.
Yeah.
But at this time for me it was Uncanny X-Men and it was Fantastic Four, and I was kind of just buying both of those books and just in heaven reading this stuff.
Yeah. I could see. So how long did this story arc go for?
So the timeline story, if we consider like the sort of time travel thing, it goes all the way to 354. So 337 to 354. But them on the time sled is kind of to around 341.
Okay.
And then something else happens when they come back to their time that also deals with time, and then something else happens, and then something else happens, and so it's like a few different sort of time related paradoxes that they encounter, and each one is like entertaining to the last. So it's definitely a really cool thing. I'd be happy to look at some more of these with you sometime too, because they're just such great stories.
Yeah, I think I might have to go dig up, try and track down like a collected or something like that. Because, yeah, I want to know where this goes. So,
Yeah.
is this run? I mean, it seems like Simonson, seems like he's having fun. Is this considered like one of the peak runs of the Fantastic Four? That seems like that would be the case.
I would say so. I think people like of our generation, the sort of exennials, if you will, the ones born between like 76 and 85, 84, are definitely consider this superior to the Byrne run. And I know that gets a lot of flack from like the older Gen Xers who are like, the Byrne run was like the best. I read all the Byrne run. It's great. I love it. Sometimes I attach a little bit too much of what I know about John Byrne, the person, to the stories, and it takes away some of that, unfortunately. Whereas Walt Simonson is always like such a kind sort of creative, and it just adds to the grandeur and the fun of the storytelling. Yeah. Also, I think it has to do with the time that it was in, because you start with Kirby. Kirby does 101 issues of FF, longer than any other run he did, and then Romita comes in there senior. Romita Senior comes in to sort of to be the Mark Pacella to Rob Liefeld. The methadone moment where you're like trying to like just like sort of it looks still like Kirby and he could convince a few kids, or like Art T. Bear to Jim Lee.
Yeah.
And he does about 5 or 6 issues. Then Buscema takes over, does a long run. Richard Buckler does a couple runs. George Perez, Bill Sienkiewicz does an early run, and then Byrne takes over. And I think Byrne's role was to be unorthodox for the sake of unorthodoxy, because so many guys were trying to do Jack's book, and there was no way around that. And Byrne kind of convinced the world this can be a continuing book without it being nostalgia. And, after Byrne, Jerry Ordway does a short run, Buscema comes back for a second run, and then Keith Pollard does a long 2 years. And like I said before, Buckler takes over, and then it's Simonson. Simonson's run to most sort of Fantastic Four historians, at least up until recent years, was considered like the tertiary run, if you will. So it's like Kirby, Byrne, Simonson.
Sure.
Now, nowadays, people talk about the Mark Waid and the other things and all these other runs that are considered. It's funny for me. I went back, bought all those books. I have the most massive FF collection you could ever see. I'm only missing about 50 issues, and that's all runs, all volumes, all annuals, special editions, one-offs, and everything. And so I've read basically everything, whether it's the floppy comics or the collected editions. And I don't know. After Simonson leaves, Paul Ryan takes over for a super long run. I think he's only second to Kirby in terms of how long his run was. I mostly hated it. And then they had like Carlos Pacheco and a bunch of kind of stylized guys who looked great. Their art looked great, but the writing was kind of. And even I liked Mike Waringo, rest in peace. I thought he was a great artist. But everything else after that kind of was lackluster to me. And to be honest, I kind of like what they're doing today in the FF Comics better than what they were doing, say, directly after Simonson left.
Wow.
I think they're actually writing better stories now, which again is kind of a controversial take, but they're writing better stories that are more in line with the science and the science fiction of all this stuff that we like about these books. And so I think that Simonson's run has stood the test of time. It was forgotten for a minute in like all of the kind of Civil War and Civil War II and all this like kind of hoopla that went down in the aughts and in the 2010s and stuff. But I think it holds up as like what should be considered the third most important run. Although someone like me, I consider it the only second to Kirby.
Sure. Yeah, I imagine these books that have been going on for so long, and any character from any company, like when such definitive works have been done, and you get the keys to the car, so to speak, where do you go that hasn't been done before? And then do you do something and you change it so drastically it doesn't resemble what people like, or do you just like it seems like a daunting challenge, to say the least. Like what kind of a story do you tell if you want to do a Superman story, for example? How long has he been?
Right.
Almost a century, right? What do you do that hasn't been done? So it's neat to see someone come along with a great take and do good stuff.
I think you have to walk a fine line. I think if you're too close to the Kirby, they accuse you of being reproducing, just rehashing. And I think if you're too far off the mark, they accuse you of not understanding the characters and their voices.
Right. It's almost like you can't win, but if you have just luck and talent, and maybe you come up with just a perfect balance of everything and just works. Yeah, I think it would be a hell of a challenge for any creative person to pick up a long-standing title like this. And what do you do?
Yeah. I think Simonson is just stylized enough that it touches on all the good stuff. It gives you something new, but it's a love letter to Jack Kirby in a lot of ways, and it's just yes, it stands the test of time, for no pun intended. It stands the test of time for sure.
Yeah, you got me definitely interested. There was just every page was like, this is neat, this is fascinating, this is who's that? How's that? So yeah, you got me interested. So I'm gonna see if I can't look around and maybe find a collection. We should continue the conversation because you're a wealth of information, sir. I appreciate it a lot.
Oh, I appreciate you, Rob. I love your show. Not a day goes by that I don't watch your show.
That means the world to me. It makes me feel so weird because I'm like, I'm just some knucklehead who just turned the camera on one day and just started talking. And somehow I've ended up making friends and connections like you and some other people, some other professionals I've got to talk to and chat with. And I'm working with Chuck Gibson, the inker from Wildstorm, and we're working on stuff. And it's just, how did I end up here talking to you? Besides just like, it's crazy to me, but thank you. It's been, we've talked about doing this for a minute, and it's been fun. I really appreciate it, man.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Like I said, you're the voice of my school commute. I got 3 kids who go to 3 different schools on 3 different sides of a very large geographical area. So you really help. You really help me. That your voice and your books, the books you choose, I just love it. I love all of it. So thank you so much.
I know I've got a potty mouth on my channel, and sometimes I'm like, maybe myself. I'm like, I don't even know I'm doing it until I'm watching it back. I'm like, geez, he cusses a lot. Who is this jerk?
My kids aren't paying attention. They're too busy reading Scholastic comics and the stuff that they love. You know, the new gen.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It means the world to me that you and anybody's listening to anything I've got to say. But it's just looking at the stuff and just talking about it, whether I like it or not. But let's just chat about it. So I appreciate it so much.
Oh, of course, Rob. Would it be okay if I mentioned one of my projects that I'm doing? Is that okay?
Tell us anything you've gotten. I'll get some links for you in the description when we do it. But anything you want to show, share.
Cool. Thank you. So I have I'm an author. You know, I write books about P-Funk. This is my first one, the authorized P-Funk song reference, official canon of Parliament Funkadelic, 1956 to 2023. This is the full canon and who played and sang on what songs. Very intellectual, very nerdy, you know, but it's like the entirety of the canon. This is more of a read. This just came out. This is Make My Funk the P-Funk. It's about the seminal year of 1975 and how P-Funk went from station wagons to spaceships in that one year. And those books can be bought anywhere books are sold. And then if people want to check out, I got comics too. My Sons of the Sun, which you was amazingly reviewed for me, the trade paperback of the first 3 issues, and then the 4th issue that's out now, and people can get those from me anywhere on my social media. Hit me up, and they're also sold in a bunch of brick and mortars as well. And I'm happy to say we're working on number 0 with the Power to the Panel guys, with Brian Moss at the helm, helping me finish my number 0 issue, which is really cool. And it's going to be out in April for April 25th, which is like a special comic book symposium that we're doing here in Tallahassee at the Word of South Festival. It's free to the public with Jim Rugg, Brian Moss, and Naomi Franquise and myself, and we're doing like a panel about how relevant the comics medium is today, seemingly more relevant than people think. So
awesome. Yeah, I look forward
thank
to
you.
You're going to have video of it. I look forward to seeing it. That's going to be awesome. And I'll get the links from you, and we'll have it all in the video so people can just click and find it instead of having to go Google search or something like that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, this was fun, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate it. I had a blast.
Yeah, we'll do it again. This is fantastic. It's so fun to sit down with someone and like, we nerd out on this stuff. This is so fun. And I learned stuff. This is learning for me because this is a blind spot for me. So I appreciate it very much.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, then I'll catch up with you soon. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep.